everyone to the Knitting by the Sea podcast. My name is Lisa, and I am Saratogaknitting on Instagram and on Ravelry, and I welcome you to my home today. I live in beautiful Marblehead, Massachusetts, which is a small town just north of Boston. And it's a beautiful day today. I have a fire going because it is still a little bit chilly outside, but I thought I would put that fire on today. I'm actually by myself in the house, which is a treat. Shh, don't tell anyone, but it's a little bit of a treat. My husband has gone to Florida for a week or so to visit a friend of his and do some rowing, and Sophia actually had to go to work today, so I'm here on my own, so I thought I would record a little bit of a podcast. Today we are going to do finished objects because I have two I'm very excited about. We'll talk about some works in progress. We'll also talk about a little bit of a giveaway that I'm going to do starting today, and I will have some chatter, and I'll talk a little bit about my wedding dress because I've been inspired by one of our other favorite podcasters. So let's get started. Finished objects. I'm very excited to have two finished objects today. The first one I've been working on quite a long time. It was actually a gift from Jenny of Tiny Paper Foxes, and it is the Granito pattern by Hohi Locatelli, and it is a lovely, lovely sweater pattern. I know I've said before that I really want to make sure that I have a sweater on the needles all the time this year, and for the foreseeable future. I really would like to make more sweaters. And I just wanted to show you, I actually finally finished, and it hasn't been for any reason not liking the pattern. The pattern is great, and I just have taken it to work with me. So on days that I don't go to the gym, or for some reason, or I have a meeting or something, that I have this I can pull out while I'm watching Netflix or podcasts at lunchtime. And it was actually a really good idea because I was at the point of being on Sleeve Island on it, so that was really nice. It's easy to do just in little bits and pieces. I've got both of the sleeves finished, and then I cast on the ribbing for the neck, and I just finished it yesterday. It's not blocked or anything, and it has all of its ends still to be woven in. It also has two pockets, which I still need to connect on the back, but I'm going to finish this. I'm going to do all that later this afternoon, and I might actually block it today as well because I'm really looking forward to wearing this. But this is the Granito. I hold it up. It's kind of a boxy sweater. It's a little crinkled, obviously, because I've had it in my knitting bag. But it's really beautiful. Look at that gorgeous color. And you can also see on this pattern that Hohi has done some little patterning. This is basically slip stitches here, and they go all the way down to the bottom of the sweater. And they're also then repeated on the back. But the interesting thing is that they're in a little different position in the front. They're a little farther over to the neck side in the front, and then in the back it's a little bit closer to the sleeve, which is really very interesting. And this was actually just enough interest to kind of keep you going as you do this pattern because, like I said, it's knit in fingering weight yarn, and there's a lot of stockinette. This is a lot of stitches, obviously, but you can see the color. This is Knit Picks palette, of course. It's my go-to. I had a lot of Knit Picks palette, but I really like Knit Picks palette for a sweater like this. It is a long sleeves, so that's perfect. And as I had mentioned, it does have pockets in the front, which are really cute. And I just have to attach the back to them, which I will do probably later this afternoon. So I'm very, very pleased. Thank you again, Jenny, for this lovely pattern by Hohi, and I really recommend it. It's a great knit. I think it's a flattering knit for a lot of different body sizes or shapes. So I'm really very happy with it. It is knit, it's knit top down, so you can try it on and make sure that everything fits, which is really nice as well. So again, the Granito by Hohi Locatelli, and that is finished and off the needles. The second project that I have finished is one that I started in December. It was a mystery knit by Nordic Stitches, so it was the Frozen Mystery Knit Along, which was really nice. It was a shawl. We just didn't know what the pieces of the shawl were going to look at. And Lily of Nordic Stitches put out a pattern, a clue every week. So there are 4 clues, and she also wrote a short story. So you had a little bit of a short story, a little continuation of the story each time you got a clue in your Ravelry pattern box, which was really kind of a special thing to do. So this was a lovely knit for the month of December, and I just finished it today. Again, so happy to have it finished. This is the pattern, and I think it came out really gorgeous. We weren't sure what it was going to look like, so she suggested some type of a variegated yarn for parts of it, and then a solid color yarn, and you can obviously see why she wanted to do that. It's just beautiful. You can see that this is a lovely lace pattern. It kind of has, it kind of makes squares and diamond shapes. It's just really, you can see that, it's really beautiful. And then each of these pattern pieces kind of extends. This is kind of the first one is kind of a moss stitch. The second one kind of has an extended moss stitch, so it has two rows instead of one back and forth. It's really nice. And then this one is the third. So it kind of progresses along the way, which is super nice, and kept it very interesting. It is a charted pattern, so if you like charts, this is kind of a good one to do. And again, it looks very complicated, but what ends up happening is that in most of these pieces, she has about an 8 stitch repeat. So once you get to that on the row, you can just stop. You don't have to think about the rest of the row. You can see the layout of it, but you can just work those 8 stitches over and over again, and you're going to finish the entire row. So that was really nice. The yarn for this yarn, the variegated yarn, is from Foster Sheep Farm, and this was gifted to me by Andrea at Saratogaknitting Knitter, and she got this for me during the Get Your Yarn Wishes Granted period at the beginning of December. Was that the end of November? Beginning of December? So she gifted me this yarn, which used to be local to me in Saratoga, so it's Carol's yarn from Foster Sheep Farm, and it's just beautiful. It's 100% merino. It's so gorgeous. I love the colors. And I really didn't know what to pair this with. I was thinking maybe some type of a cream color. I just wasn't sure what to pair it with. And then I remembered that Sophia last year, it was even 2 years ago now, when she was in London with, she was in Bath, England, visiting her friend Emma, and they went to London, and they went to Loop London, and she got me some Eded Cottage Craft yarns, and it is just beautiful. So this is, and I've kind of left it in my stash. I didn't quite know what to do with it, but then I pulled it out, and I thought it worked perfectly for this pattern. I think it really looks lovely. Now this, again, this is not blocked yet, so this is already pretty large. It's going to be much larger when I block it. I'll probably wait a little bit to block it. I like to do the outside on my mother-in-law's laundry line, which is a really great way to block it. So if it's starting to get just a tad warmer, so I might be able to do that one of these weekends and just really block it out to its full size so you can see the full glory of it. But I'm really pleased. This was a lovely pattern, and again, it's the Frozen pattern by Lily of Nordic Stitches, and I just really love it. So yeah, so 2 finished objects. Oh, and I should say too, I forgot to mention at the beginning, but I am wearing my vest. I'm wearing my Bruntsfield vest by Isolde Teague. So this was my big project last year. Fair Isle vest all the way around. It's Fair Isle all the way around, and it had steeking in the neckline, and I had to steek the armholes as well. So this was my big project. This was my Rhinebeck sweater for last year. So yeah, I'm sure that someone would ask me what that was. So that's what I'm wearing. So now let us turn to some works in progress. Works in progress. I have 3, I think, actually, now that I'm going to talk about today. So the first one is a pair of socks. And these are the no-heel spiral socks, and the design has been put out by La Maison Rillallee. And it's based on a vintage sock pattern, so it's not original to the designer, but she put it out. And I know there was a little bit of controversy about this particular pattern because she put it out. It's a free pattern, and it's in PDF, but you can't print the PDF. You can't download it into your Ravelry library, but you can take a picture of it on your phone if you want. Just save a screenshot. And the pattern ending of it, once you understand it, is super simple. So I highly recommend it. I think it's a really interesting concept. And basically the concept of this is that you start out, it's a toe-up sock, and there's no heel to it. And now people do that, they do it for kids a lot, just make the tube socks, and it's that kind of an idea. However, it has a rib that alternates every 6 rows, and so basically it creates a spiral, and that spiral is going to hug in onto your leg, so you actually don't need to put a heel in, or that's the concept anyway. So I have one finished and I'm working on the second one. So I thought I would show it to you. This is yarn that was gifted to me by our friend Emma. Thank you, Emma, once again. And it's Knit Picks. I don't remember whether it's Stroll, but it's a Knit Picks sock yarn, and it's really lovely. It's this beautiful shades of purple, and it's just perfect. I really love it. So this is actually the first sock. It looks crazy. It looks ridiculous. I mean, it looks like a snake. It's just totally ridiculous. But you can see up close that it has a ribbing. And that ribbing, you can see how it's twisting. So the ribbing is twisting around. And on each of the socks you knit the ribbing, kind of you're decreasing on one side, and on the other sock you're doing it the other way. It really wouldn't matter. You could do two of the same. But that's just the way the pattern is written. So there's no front, there's no back on this, but it just twists around. As I said, it's a 6-row repeat. So basically you're doing knit 3, purl 3, and then on every 7th row you're shifting over one. So that first knit stitch becomes a purl stitch, and it just shifts over, and that's what creates the twist or the spiral on it. So it looks ridiculous. It totally looks ridiculous. I was knitting this and I'm saying, I don't know if this is gonna work, but I wanted to try it. I wanted to try it anyway. So, but when I finished it, I was really excited. I had tried it on to kind of make sure, see how long I wanted to make, how long I wanted to make it. I'm gonna put it on the sock blocker now. And it really is kind of cool. It really is kind of cool. So this is actually, I think I had a picture up on Instagram too when I tried it on. This is actually what it actually looks like when it's on your foot. Get that out of there. But so when you do it this way, and basically the idea is that when you put it on, I can twist it a little bit more. When you put it on, you twist the sock so that the ribbing goes straight up your foot and then up the leg. So you don't want to wear it twisted. You want to wear it straight, because that actually makes the ribbing work harder, and that's what pulls it in onto your foot. So basically, it pulls it right in, and you don't even notice that there's no heel on this. Now I have to admit, I obviously haven't worn them yet because I'm only halfway through the second sock, but I did try the first one on. Like I said, it feels a little strange not in a shoe. When you're just wearing it, it feels like it pulls a little bit. It feels like it's kind of baggy here in the back. But as soon as I put my shoe on, my regular slip-on shoe from work, it felt phenomenal. It felt great. I would never have known if I didn't have, if I couldn't see it, I would never have known that this did not have a heel in it. So I think it's really super cool. It's a really cool idea. I don't know if I would do this every single time, but I definitely would make this pattern again, and I definitely would recommend it as something to try as an experiment. It certainly would be great for a kid. Another one, sometimes just the tube socks for the kids sometimes can get baggy. This is not really going to get baggy because it's got all this twist in it. So the yarn is really energized, and it really wants to pull in because it's got the twist, and then you're twisting out. You're also twisting it out, so it really is trying to twist back in on itself, and it's really pulling in. So I highly recommend it. I think it's a really cool pattern, and I'm really looking forward to finishing the second one, and then getting to wear them. And I'll let you know how they wear. I know some people were concerned about maybe the heel wearing out. I mean, I'm not super tough on my socks either, and I have so many of them that, when I wear a pair of socks, I probably don't get back to them for, another 2 weeks. So I really don't wear any one pair of sock a lot. So I rarely wear socks out. And if I do, I tend to kind of wear them out right underneath here in the kind of the ball of my foot rather than the heel. The heel really doesn't get worn out for me. But yeah, I would highly recommend it. So again, this is the No Heel Twist Sock by La Maison Rillery, and I'll put the link information in as well. So really cool, highly recommend it. The second work in progress makes me so happy. It makes my heart sing. It just makes my heart sing. I just love it so much. and Patricia of the Knittography podcast or videocast. She is just a dear friend. She lives in Norway, and she is just a lovely knitter. If you haven't watched her video blogs, you should go take a look. She lives on this beautiful, beautiful farm in Norway. She's a teacher, and she just does beautiful, beautiful, beautiful knitting. And she does a lot of selbu mittens, and she does a lot of Norwegian sweaters with the colorwork yoke. And I really wanted to get back to that. I've made them in the past. I've given them. I think one of them I gave away, but I like the concept because they're really nice. They're usually from the top down, so it's easy to kind of figure out where you are and make sure that everything is working on it. So Patricia actually gifted me the Engi pattern by Jennifer Steingass, and it's such a wonderful pattern, and I'm so glad that she gifted it to me. So I really actually got started on it right away. Oh, you remember from the last podcast where I had that huge cast on. I really that was such a knitting fail, and I actually have saved that piece. It's still upstairs in one of my knitting baskets. I think I'll keep that for posterity. You can look at my previous episode if you haven't joined me before, and you'll see what happened. I just cast on just way too many stitches for this. Oh, and you might, again, I usually mention this too, you might hear a little jingle in the background. That's because of there she is, our cat. She has a little bell on her collar, and I usually don't hear that anymore. I don't know that any of us do, except maybe sometimes at night. Or you can you'll hear it and you'll know where she is. She's not lost somewhere, but I forget about that, and then inevitably someone will ask me, what was that jingling noise? And the jingling noise is the cat. I'm actually downstairs in our living room today, and I can hear her crunching on her food over there, so you might hear a little jingle jangle as she kind of walks on by. But anyway, back to the sweater. I love this sweater. It's so beautiful. So after the debacle of the original cast on, which was horrendous, it's just so funny. I now am well back on track. I cast on again, and I am almost finished with the body piece, and so here it is. So, and it keeps on going. So, and I'm almost at the bottom, so I just stopped there because it's the pattern. I start the colorwork pattern again, just around the bottom, and then I'll do a little bit of ribbing. It is perfect. I love it. And then of course I have to do the sleeves, but I love it. It's going to be perfect when it's blocked out. I just think it's really lovely. Now Jennifer Steingass has a really interesting way of doing this. Maybe it's just because I haven't done a lot of these sweaters, but I really like it. So basically what she has you do is start with a provisional cast on right here in this area, and you're basically then knitting up. So you're starting here, and then you're knitting up. You're doing all the decreases for the color work for the yoke, and then you're finishing off with the neckline. And then what you do is you just pick up those stitches here, and then you knit down. So that it actually is really a really interesting construction and really nice way to do it. I'm very, very pleased with this. So I am using this is the main gray color here is Knit Picks, Wool of the Andes. Again, in the United States, Knit Picks is a really nice. It's 100% wool. And it is, it's really a good kind of workhorse yarn. It's not that expensive, but it lasts really well. It washes very well. I find it to really, really work for me and my style of knitting. So a lot of times it's kind of my go-to if I need a large volume of yarn, so that it's not, the sweater making isn't just completely out of budget range. However, for the rest of this, for the yoke, I've been using some of the hand spun and the special yarn that I used in my haps. So some of this is hand spun that I made from fiber from Carol, again, Foster Sheep Farm. Some is beautiful Shetland wool that I got from the Batten Kill Mill when we went to the fiber Knit Local fiber retreat last year. The red color again is hand spun, and the black, the darker one is hand spun as well. and the lighter wool again is some of the Shetland from Bat and Kill. So I really was happy. I had enough left. I was really happy to actually pair these colors together again. Now the interesting thing about this, so this will be an ongoing project here, and I will show you. If you look closely at the color work, you're like, what a mess. That woman doesn't know how to do color work. What a mess. So you can see that it looks like there are stitches that are missed in the color work. You can see it like right in this piece here. There are dark stitches right here that go down. Now what has happened is that when I was knitting it correctly, however, because it's hand spun, and this does happen with hand spun. This is I'm not saying that this is a bad thing, but this is because it's hand spun, that there is obviously going to be inconsistencies in the yarn. Some places are thinner, some places are thicker. You know, you do your best to be as consistent when you're doing something like this, but again, hand spun is hand spun. That is what it is, and that is really the beauty of it. So what happens sometimes when you're doing something like this is that because of the unevenness of the diameter of the yarn, it has fallen behind the back color. So it's there, but you just can't see it. It hasn't popped out. And there is a way to kind of make sure that you're doing it doesn't happen to you when you're using commercial yarn, and that is always to keep I think you always keep, I'm gonna have to look this up again, but I think you always keep the color that you want to pop on top of the other color, the background color, and that way that's the yarn that always pops out based on your type of knitting. However, just because the yarn was inconsistently spun, even though I was doing that, it sometimes kind of falls behind. Let's see if you can get really close and you can see that. So what I will do when I am done with this, after it's finished, and I block it, some of it will kind of ease out too. It'll pop back out when I block it and pull that out. So that some of that will take care of it that way. However, what I will do at the end of the project is that I will then take some of that yarn, the background color, that dark color that should be popping here, and I'm going to do duplicate stitch over those stitches that have fallen behind. And duplicate stitch is really just a great little piece of of a knitting technique to kind of have in your back pocket when you need it, because you never know. It's also called Swiss darning, so you can look up duplicate stitch, you could look up Swiss darning in knitting, and basically what you do with that is that I will just take that dark yarn and I will just mimic those stitches, so you know that the stitches are kind of looking like this where you're doing them. So I'm going to take that yarn with in a darning needle, and I'm just going to go in and out, and I'm going to repeat that particular knit stitch where I need to have a more pop of color. So that's going to be on top of the original stitch that's there, but because I'm putting it now, I'll have two layers of that same stitch. That color will then pop back out on the top. It's a great little technique to use, and I think probably when I do it, I might have Sophia kind of take a video of me to show you what it is that I mean. But that is going to even out all of that color pieces that you just can't see, like right there, when I am finished with this, and you will never know. That's another beautiful thing about Swiss darning and duplicate stitch or Swiss darning. No one will ever know that you did it. It's just an amazing thing to do. The other nice thing about it too is that you can do that. Say for example, maybe you have a sweater or something, or a hat maybe, that you've done all in one color, and you want to like put like a little star on it or a little snowflake or something. Well, you don't have to worry about trying to do intarsia to put that in. You can just take some yarn when you're all done and place it where you want, and just go over those stitches to make that little design in that one particular area. It's very, very useful little technique. And again, the nice thing about it as well is you can do it, and if you don't like the placement of where you've done it, just pull it out and then start it again and do it again until it looks absolutely correct. There were places on this, I think there was one particular place on this sweater that I could see that something had kind of gone a little wonky. And so that's basically what I did. I had certainly had enough of this yarn left over, and I just did a little duplicate stitch over, and I actually couldn't even tell you where it was, and no one would be able to find it. It's a really nice way to either correct a mistake or to kind of make sure you've got all the stitches in, you know, the color where you want the color in a pattern like this. Yeah, and it's great. And so you can see that this is the front because there's some short row shaping in the back, which again, and this is another thing that I did on this particular pattern, because I think she mentions in there kind of do a short row technique that you like that doesn't give you holes, because some short row techniques can create little bits of holes when you're turning. So what I did in this particular sweater, and it worked really well, it certainly worked well because this is kind of DK worsted weight yarn, is that I just used the technique that is the short row technique in the fish lips kiss heel, because you get no holes. I don't get any holes when I do that, so that worked really well for me. So another tip, if you don't own the fish lips kiss heel, you should. It's $1. The pattern is fantastic, not only for the heel, but just for the technique of doing a short row with no holes. So just another little tip on this. So I'm really happy about this. It's been flying. It's just it goes so much quicker because it's larger yarn than the granito on the fingering weight yarn. So I'm very, very pleased with this. Super happy. I'm really looking forward to this, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these sweaters. It's so nice because you could do this particular pattern in so many different colors, and no one would even know that it was the same sweater pattern. So thank you, Patricia, for this pattern, and I'm really excited to be doing this. So this is my first sweater for 2018. Well, I guess that one is the first one I finished, but this one is the first one I'm really working on quite a bit in 2018, and I'm really looking forward to continuing working on it. My third work in progress is spinning. So I have been spinning. This particular spinning project, I kind of pulled this out. I thought it was time. I showed you last time I'm spinning to do a clapetee. And I did finish the first bobbin that I showed you last time. I haven't done any more on that, so I thought I wanted to get out this particular fiber and get working on this. This is, let me grab the card. Here we go. So this is fiber, and here it is here. I'll show you what this looks like. Isn't that beautiful? I love the colors of this. This is fiber from Miriam, who is the Constant Thread, and here's her card. And Miriam has been a friend of mine on Instagram for quite a while, and she owns a farm out in the western part of New York State, and we ran into each other at Rhinebeck, and she stopped me and she wanted to give me some of her fiber so that I could try it, and it is, I love it. This particular one is from her sheep sow. So it's sow's wool that's dyed, and it's also combined with some commercial merino and silk and some local alpaca to her, and it also she has added some Firestar, so it has some sparkle in it as well. And if you might remember, I'm one of the moderators for the O Loops Harry Potter knit along, and my partner Lucy is a new spinner. She actually has a spinning wheel, but she's new to spinning. So when I got this fiber, I decided that I wanted to do a challenge between Lucy and myself as part of our swap package. So I took this fiber and I split it in two, and I gave half of it to Lucy and I kept half of it. And so our challenge for the swap for this year, at some point, is for each of us to spin the yarn and then send it to the other and see what we come up with, and then just make a little something with the yarn that we send each other. It won't be a lot because there won't be a lot of yarn, but maybe just kind of it could just be a sample swatch or something like that, just so we have it and can see the differences, because what I spin from this fiber is not what Lucy will spin from this fiber, especially with Lucy being a newer spinner. So I anticipate hers will be a little bit thicker, so you'll probably see more of the deeper colors in it, which will be really interesting. And mine, just because I have more experience, I've spun it a little bit thinner. So the singles are pretty. The single is pretty thin on this, but it's really beautiful. I really like this, and I actually like the fact that it's wool. It's real wool, and it's combined with some silk and alpaca. because it really gives it a lot of structure, and it makes it easy to spin, because it's like a nice combination, because the fibers are, she did it in bats, and I've just split these up, but so the fibers are kind of laid out, but they're not too slippery. Silk sometimes is very, very slippery when you're trying to spin it, so you're trying to hold on to it, and it's like you're fighting it flying off onto the bobbin. But because this is silk mixed with the wool and the alpaca, the silk gives it just a little bit of a slip, but the wool and the alpaca still add some grippiness to it. And it just makes it easy to spin. You're not thinking about it. You're not worried it's going to fall apart on you, which you do with sometimes. It just kind of spins itself. And because of all the colors in it, I think it's just beautiful. It's so, so pretty. And it does have sparkle in it. I don't know if the sparkle is shining up here or not, but it has a lot of sparkle in it. So what I wanted to do, I only have half of the package, so what I wanted to do is just spin it all up. And I have two more little bumps. I might probably finish this tonight. I have two more little bumps to do here. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to ply it then with some commercial yarn. And the commercial yarn that I'm going to use is this lovely Shabui Knits Birch. Isn't that gorgeous? It's so soft, it's so lovely, and it's just going to be perfect. It's lace weight, so it's going to be perfect mixed with this. So I think that these are going to be beautiful, beautiful together. And the reason I do this often, I do this often, I will take a fiber that I get and just spin it all out in singles, either one big bobbin or two bobbins, but then apply it with a kind of a complementary commercial yarn sometimes. And what that does is basically lets me get a bigger bang for your buck, so to speak. So you're going to use all of the fiber rather than taking it and making a smaller braid of yarn, because you most of the time you're going to use it, and you use half, and then you would ply it together to make a 2-ply, or split it in 3 and make a 3-ply, which is even going to be smaller in length. So, but this way I can just spin this entire amount in a single and then ply it with this. So I'm going to get the advantage of length in terms of the amount of yarn that I'm going to make is going to be only limited to the amount of fiber that I have, not that I want to split this in two and ply it together. So I really like to do that sometimes, and that's what I'm going to do with this, because then hopefully this will give Lucy a little bit something. Maybe she could make a little cowl, or even make a hat, or maybe like a couple of pairs of a pair of mitts, maybe something along those lines. But this will should give enough yardage to actually make a little bit of a fun little project for her. So I really like to do it, and I saw this yesterday. Sophie and I went over to Circle Knits over in Salem, and I picked this up yesterday, which was really lovely. So I'm really looking forward to finishing these last two bumps and then starting to apply these two together, and I think that'll come out and really, 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 really pretty, and I'm looking forward to it. So, Miriam, when she saw me at Rhinebeck, she also gave me an extra bag of fiber as a giveaway on the podcast, and that's what I want to do now. So many of you are participating in #WeMakeYarn. So it's kind of a spinning hashtag for the month of January, and there's a prompt for every day. I haven't been great at doing every single day. I've done quite a few days on it, but it's really fun to see. So there are prompts like, wheel, so you take pictures of your wheel, or a twist, so you can take pictures of some of your yarn color. If you have a question what's your question about spinning, why does spinning make your heart sing, all these kinds of things. So it's really been really fun to watch people. Some people are doing it in Instagram stories. Some people are just doing pictures on Instagram. I just kind of like to do the pictures on Instagram, so that makes me really happy to see that. And that's actually been a really good incentive to kind of get me back to spinning. I love to spin, and what happens with me is that I tend to kind of fall off. And I'm like, oh, I finished one up, and then I'm just, I think, oh yes, I'm going to start that one, and like a week goes by, and another week goes by, and another week goes by. So I really need to be part of that Spin 15 a day club. I don't do it every day, but I've been trying to. I've been trying to be more conscious about my spinning, just to remember to do it. The spinning wheel is right here. It's right in the living room next to the fireplace here, so it's staring at me all the time. I just need to pull it out and pull my chair out. It's really not a difficult thing. I have plenty to spin. But anyway, so Miriam gave me some spinning fiber of her own once again to give away, and this is it's beautiful. It's 1.5 ounces, and again, it's Sal's wool. It's Sal her sheep, and it is also spun with. It's mixed with, again, local alpaca and some silk and some Firestar sparkle. It's a different color though. Look at these gorgeous colors. You see the turquoise and the purple and the yellow and that green. Oh my goodness, it is gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. So what I'd like to do is do a giveaway, and I'll draw for a winner next time I podcast, and I will put a thread up in the Ravelry group, Knitting by the Sea podcast group over on Ravelry. And I just think, just kind of to celebrate spinning this month, tell me what you love about spinning. Why, you can tell me what you do with your spun yarn. Do you just spin it and, put it away and look at it? Do you use it? Do you spin for specific projects? Do you just kind of spin and let the yarn tell you what it wants to be? Really, tell me anything about spinning, or why you love spinning, or why you want to do it. And I'm going to give away this lovely bag of fiber the next time through. So good luck, and I'll look forward to reading your comments. Right, let me talk a little bit about what's been happening here in Marblehead. We had another blizzard a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago now, I think. And that was crazy, because we just had gone back to school after our Christmas break, and this crazy storm came through, and I ended up having the following Thursday and Friday off from work. That was crazy. And then we had incredible Arctic cold come in. It was so cold. It was, oh my gosh, it was, the wind chill factors were they got up to maybe 25 below zero in Fahrenheit, and oh my gosh, it was so cold. They kept having warnings on the television. If you're outside, your bare skin, any bare skin that you have, you can start to experience beginning frostbite after 30 minutes of being exposed to the skin. So it was just not fun. And this house that we live in is great, and it's really interesting. But the building was built in 1750, and it is just, there's not really any insulation in the walls. There are 5 different fireplaces in the house, and this is the only one we can really use. The other ones are shut off with dampers, but we have the wide pine floors. There's no cellar to this, so it's just a little bit of a crawl space and then dirt underneath it. Some of the pine boards are they're very, very old, and they look fantastic, but the cold seeps up through them. The cold seeps in through the windows. I think I'd mentioned last time I've gone through and plasticed all the windows, but it was just cold. Certainly on the first floor, it was just hard to get it warmed up enough. The second and the third floor, Sophia was like toasty, because all the heat went all the way up to her floor. But that was a little bit. That was not that cold is just not really pleasant. It's great sweater weather, but it's really just not pleasant to have to deal with at all. So that was kind of that wasn't really very much fun. But it started to warm up a little bit. We've gotten quite a bit of rain, so all this snow that we had, and we had quite a bit of it. We probably had 8 or 9 inches of it. You've seen, I'll put pictures in at the end as well, but you've seen some pictures on Instagram that I posted during that storm. And the snow is basically all gone again, and it's actually kind of, it's starting to kind of ease up into the upper 40s this week. It will get cold again before it gets warm, but at least you have that feeling. It feels like spring is coming eventually, and and the sun is starting to go down later, which is also nice. Again, nothing like our friends in the Arctic, where they just have days of no sun right in the middle of December. but it makes a difference, when you get out of work at 4:45, and one week it's pitch black when you get out of work, and then the next week there's a little glimmer still of light, and then a little bit longer. Next week it's a little bit more. So that is that's comforting. We're on that other way. We're on that other way through it. So that's really really nice. I'm looking forward to a little more regular weather, spring like weather, so we can actually get outside where it doesn't hurt. To go outside. My husband, again, Mark, has been taking lots of pictures, and he has been having a great time with his Instagram account. Oh my goodness. I'll put it up here. It's at Mark in Marblehead, and he is just posting up pictures of Marblehead. And like I said, he has a camera, and he's always wanted to, I think since he's been young, is to kind of to get into photography. He's just never had the opportunity or the chance or the time to do it. And he really has determined this year that he's going to do it. He also has the drone. And so he probably will end up starting some type of a company where he actually will do professional drone photography around sailing in this area, which is certainly a big thing. But just for personal pleasure, he loves to take pictures of Marblehead. He grew up in Marblehead, so he knows all the cool places. He graduated from Mass Maritime, so he's a sailor. So he also knows all about boats and what to what to take pictures of, and he's just really learning about it and having a great time. So go take a look at his Instagram feed. He is tickled when people like it or make comments on it. So go comment on his pictures. They're actually really lovely. He does take really beautiful pictures, but it's been a lot of fun for him. I got a little surprise in the mail last week. Yuki, you crazy woman. You remember Yuki? Yuki is someone that had contacted Sophia and I last year. She watches the podcast, and she came to Rhinebeck by herself from Japan because she wanted to come to Rhinebeck. She needed to come to Rhinebeck. Such a phenomenal person. She's just so great. She's just so great, and she feels like part of our family now. But she sent me. I know she'd given me a lot of Japanese patterns because I'm interested in kind of looking at that, and I got the Japanese stitch pattern book that I purchased for myself as a little pre-Christmas gift as well. But she sent me another magazine. Ooh, look at this! Isn't this cool? I love these Japanese magazines. And I don't know if you can, which way this shows up on the camera, but the Japanese magazines are backwards to European magazines. So in this country, this would be the back of the magazine, but in Japan, it's the front of the magazine. So you're opening it up here, and they've got, this particular one has all kinds of beautiful Fair Isle patterns in it. It's really crazy. Oh my gosh, all these beautiful Fair Isle patterns. And she took one of the patterns, it was so nice. She took one of the patterns and she kind of copied it and made all kinds of notes on it so I could get a sample of what some of the symbols mean, because the symbols are basically the same in every pattern. My mother-in-law was dropping something off for my husband. But anyway, so I have this beautiful book, and and Yuki had made copies of the pattern, and she made all these notes on there for me. So I had an idea, not to do this particular pattern, but had an idea of what some of the symbols meant, because they're exactly the same in each knitting pattern. Because the Japanese patterns are really just charted, so they give you very little wording, and then they have charts, and so you can see what the numbers are and how many you're supposed to cast on and how many stitches you would have in place. And I'm so excited to. I'm not going to do a sweater, but there's a hat that's actually in the Japanese knitting Stitch Bible that I actually I might try. Because that also has explanations of it. So kind of putting together her notes and that book that I have as well. I really would like to try that probably later this winter. Do a couple of other things first, but then I pull the book down and I look at it every now and again, and I look at her notes, and so I've kind of you kind of got to move your brain in that direction. So you're like, okay, it looks a little, this time I'm reading it and it looks a little bit familiar. I said to Sophia the other day, and I was reading one of the patterns. I'm looking at not reading them, I'm looking at the pattern, and I'm going, Sophia, so hard because I want to just, I'm looking at the pattern and I'm understanding the schematics, or I understand what the schematic is trying to tell me. I might not understand exactly what it's telling me, but I understand what it's trying to tell me. And I just keep thinking that all of a sudden it's just gonna like turn into English, or I'm just like going to be able to read it by osmosis. Does anybody ever do that? Or it's like listening to a foreign language. Like, well, I don't know. If I listen enough to the foreign language, I should understand it. And I suppose that's what immersion is, but not, not in this particular sense. But between Yuki, because she said I could, I could email her with any questions that I might have, and Sophia, who I don't think has actually used a Japanese knitting pattern, but she could probably decipher what they're meaning, and then having the Japanese Stitch Bible as well to kind of help me out too. I'm really looking forward to it. It's just such a different concept from the way we knit now. Although the way we knit now, or the patterns that we see now, are very different from, say, a vintage pattern that our grandmothers might have knit with. So it's it's all evolving, and it's all good, and I'm interested in learning about this year, so I'm really looking forward to it. So thank you, Yuki. This was a great surprise to get in the mail. Thank you so much, and I'm delving in. I'm looking at it. I'm not quite ready to start yet, but I'm definitely looking at it and anticipating doing something. And I feel like it's one of those, if you crack the code, this whole other world of knitting is going to open up. So I'm really looking forward to that. Something else cool this week, if you watch the Bakery Bears podcast, which you all should, of course, Dan and Kay are phenomenal, and for patrons of their podcast, they put out a newsletter. I don't know, every couple of months. I forget how often it comes out, but Dan asked Sophia to do an article for this one. It's called Knitability, and it is already out. It came out last week, and it was so sweet. She did an article on my grandmother, my Grammy Anita, who was the knitter in our family, and she's the one that I learned to knit from. And we have this beautiful old knitting bag I'm sure I've shown it before on the podcast. But so Sophia did a really sweet article about a great grandmother that she never met. Yeah, and it was wonderful. And we took a picture, we sent to Dan, because I have this wonderful picture, which I think I also showed on the podcast before, but it's of myself and my grandmother and my father and her father, and it was on my first birthday, which is really, really special. Actually, I'm going to stop here and grab it. So it's crazy. So this is my grandmother, Anita, right here. And this is her father, Rudolph. And this is my dad, Sophia's pop. And that little tyke in the middle is me, and that was on my first birthday. But this was really special because it had all 4 generations. And they also took a picture of my other 2 grandparents, my other grandmother, my Nana, and my papa. He was still alive at the time, and my mother and me. So they had a picture of the generations of for both sides. So it's really special, and I have both of those pictures, and they're very, very special for me to have. So it's really cool. So if you're a patron of the Bakery Bears, you can read Sophia's article on Knitability, and you can see that picture up close because Dan blew it up. So there I am in all my 1 year old glory. So it's really kind of fun. And then the other thing I just wanted to talk about a little bit today, just kind of as a fun thing to finish up. Patricia from Knitography, she has been doing a little bit of a vlog. It was her wedding anniversary a few weeks back, so she was doing a little bit of a vlog based on the tradition of knitting selbu mittens for wedding parties back in the day. And so it was kind of all at the same time, and so she knit a new pair of mittens, kind of in the style of the selbu mittens, and kind of as a recognition of, I think it was her 20th wedding anniversary. And then she also talked about she didn't make mittens for her wedding, but she made her dress. She had her dress made. She designed her dress. She designed a beautiful piece of jewelry for it. She had a cape that went with it. They were married she and her husband were married in December, and she actually gets her dress out every year on her anniversary. she obviously doesn't wear it anymore, but she gets it out and just kind of looks at it and kind of lets all the memories come back. And I just thought that was really wonderful. And it kind of sparked in me the fact that that I'm sure I have never spoken about my wedding dress here on the podcast. And that was actually, I kind of have a special wedding story too. Now, our wedding anniversary was back in October, but I thought I would, I went looking and I pulled out some pictures of it because I just thought it was just like a nice inspiration from Patricia, and I thought I would show the same thing because it's kind of neat. So my husband and I were married back in 1987, so we've been married for 30 years now, and it was, I didn't know what to do. We're going to get married, and I knew we were going to get married in Saratoga, New York, and Saratoga is a Victorian town, so Marblehead is a very maritime town, very 1800s, like ship captains kind of architecture, these beautiful clapboard houses. Well, Saratoga is Victorian, so we have a lot of Victorian houses. They have these big porches and lots of curlicues, and just it's a different era. And so I didn't really know. I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a new wedding dress. I wasn't really. I don't know. I wasn't wedded. I wasn't wedded to the thought of having to have a white wedding dress. We really didn't want to spend thousands of dollars. I didn't have thousands of dollars, but I didn't want to spend a lot of money on a dress, but I was trying to think of something special. And my mother, she said to me, she goes, we have her mother's, my Nana's wedding dress. And my Nana got married in the 20s. And it was this beautiful dress. It was gray velvet, and it was sleeveless. It was one length. It was beautiful. It had a really very soft opening neck, but it was kind of a little bit of a cowl, so it was gathered a little bit. It just fell open beautifully. Sleeveless. It was just a straight shot from the top to the bottom. It was this lovely, lovely color, gray velvet. It was just beautiful. So she's like, why don't you try that? I mean, you never know. But unfortunately, my Nana was a much smaller bone. She was a very, very tiny lady. So the dress really, it just didn't fit. It didn't fit me. It didn't fit my bust size. It just didn't sit right on me. And it would have been too crazy to kind of try to adjust that. And again, it wasn't necessarily Victorian. We knew we were going to have the wedding reception in the Adelphi Hotel, which is a very Victorian hotel in Saratoga. So that was kind of like the thinking. So we weren't sure. And then she's like, you know what? She goes, I have this other bag, a brown paper bag, if you can believe this. She goes, let me see. I think I've got another dress up there somewhere for something. I don't know. I think it was my great aunt's or something. So we're like, okay. So I had a couple of my girlfriends there, and we were just at my parents' house for the weekend. So we're trying to figure this out. And she brought down, and it was literally a brown paper bag rolled up. She opened it up and she pulled out this beautiful Victorian wedding dress. Unbelievable. It was deep, kind of a deep a blue color, and it had silk on it, and it had mutton sleeves, and I was like floored. We had no idea, and it actually belonged to my mother's great aunt. So my grandmother's mother, her cousin's mother, if I remember correctly. But anyway, we have a picture, like a tintype picture almost, of her and her husband in this dress. And my mother pulled that out too. She's like, look, here it is. I've got this old tintype. She never had hung it up or anything. Pulled it out of the closet. And we were like, wow, look at that. That is so cool. And so she pulled it out. Now the dress I tried it on, and it basically fit me. And it was the right length. The color was very flattering. It was lovely. Now it needed work. We needed to have the silk. It was all silk. I'll show you the picture, but it was all silk here on the top, and it's silk. It was these big mutton sleeves and silk to the wrists here. And the silk was old, and it was stained, and so that needed to be replaced. But it had this beautiful silk accent right here, and it had these beautiful silk pieces around the bottom of it, so it's just like this little accent. And the fit was really amazingly perfect. It was like it was meant to be. So we ended up having to take it to a seamstress who actually was here in Marblehead, and she redid all those pieces for me. And then she gave me the use of her grandmother's, an old dress from her grandmother, to use for my maid of honor. So we kind of matched in this old Victorian way. It was just a wonderful experience. So so now my mother still has this dress, but it is no longer in a paper bag. It's been properly preserved. I don't know if anybody will ever use it again, but it was such a wonderful thing. So here's the dress. So there's not a. So you can imagine that this had been stored in a paper bag since whenever. It's had to be from so probably the mid 1800s, so 1850, 1860, someplace in that range. And it was amazing. The all the blue part was perfectly fine. I mean, we had it cleaned, but it was perfectly fine other than that. And these are my two brothers. This is my brother Ed, and this is my brother Mike on that side. There's my mother hiding in the corner. These are some of the proofs from the photographer, from the wedding photographer. This is myself and my matron of honor, Claudia. So this is the dress that the dressmaker loaned us. So it was really perfect. Worked really well. I didn't want a veil, so we ended up just getting a kind of a crown of flowers, which worked really well, and a headband. And this is all of my family again. So my husband Mark, and my two brothers once again, and my parents. And because we had the formal dress, we decided to. And in the picture, their wedding picture, the original wedding picture, her husband was in white tie and tails. So that's what we had. All the men in the party did that. So everybody had tuxedos, and it was just white tie and tails. It was really, really beautiful and very, very elegant. It was a lot of fun. And then here's our just the obligatory picture. We actually didn't want to do this. We were, everybody has a picture taken in the limousine. Well, in this country anyway, toasting champagne to each other. But this turned out to be kind of like the best picture of all. But it's really pretty. But you can see the detailing on the collar here. So this was all replaced, and this was perfectly fine. She just kind of neatened that up. But it was just such a special thing. It's just different. It wasn't your usual wedding dress. So that was really lovely. It was just what we wanted, and it fit the setting. It was just perfect. And so thank you for Patricia for kind of bringing back those memories for me too, and for just inspiring me to get those pictures out and show everyone. It's just kind of a fun little thing to do. So I think that's it for now. Come on over and say hello on Instagram or on Ravelry. If you are interested in finding out the next time I podcast, which is usually about once a month or so, or every 3 weeks or so, you can subscribe. And remember, it's just knitting. Bye.